Goose Goslin, Leon Allen Goslin, was born in Salem, New Jersey in 1900. I interviewed him very close to Salem in Bridgeton, New Jersey. That's right on the Delaware Bay in South Jersey. He was 62 years old. We talked in a little trailer right near the waterfront, and he had a little fishing tackle and boat rental place. He was a big, happy, rollicking man, always looking at the bright side of life. Very nice person. He was a pleasure to be with. He was a great hitter. 18 years in the major leagues, mainly with the Washington Senators and the Detroit Tigers. He led the league in batting once. He drove in 1,600 runs. He had a lifetime .316 batting average, and he was elected to the Hall of Fame in 1968. We went up to the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown when he was inducted. Goose, me, his girlfriend, his brother, his brother's wife, his nephew, everybody was there. We all had a good time. When he made his talk of acceptance into the Hall of Fame, he broke down in tears. And the commissioner of baseball, William Eckert, held him for a bit until he recovered. And we got back to the hotel, and Goose said, "Wow, this is something." He said, "I never have had a chance to go into the Hall of Fame. I'm in it now, but I never had a chance to go through it. Well, see what's all about. Let's do that. Let's take an hour's rest, and then we'll do that this afternoon." But we people were sitting in chairs and lying down. Then the phone rang, and it was the hotel clerk. He said, "Mr. Goslin, you have to leave the room at 2:00. And not only that," he said, "but all of your party has to leave their rooms at 2:00 too." And the Goose says, "Wait, what are you talking about? I'm going to stay till tomorrow." And the guy said, "Well, Mr. Goslin, we sent you at least 4 letters asking you to please let us know if you wanted to stay past the induction day. And you didn't answer any of them, so we assumed that you were going to leave today. And there's nothing we can do because there's a convention of so-and-so coming in." So we were all kicked out of the hotel, out of Otesaga, and we all started the long trip home, tired and unhappy, on Goose's glorious day.
Oh, I loved it. I ate
Yeah.
baseball, and it just came to me natural, and I didn't have to go out and train a whole lot. I mean, practice. But I was a strong kid. You see, I was raised on a farm and did a lot of hard, laborious work. I could swing that bat pretty quick. But I can remember when I first started around the sandlots here in South Jersey, in these little towns, that's when they used to take baseball more serious than around these places. They don't take it serious anymore. They don't have the interest in playing like I did in my day. Well, I'd ride 10 miles on a bicycle and then get a spanking when I got back, because I got back late to milk the cows and without anything to eat all day. I started as a pitcher. Well, I used to strike out quite a few of them fellas. But when I got into professional ball, I found it was different. Well, the harder I threw that ball, the harder they hit it. And our manager, he come over to me playing third base. He said, "Kid," he said, "if you don't pitch where I tell you to," he said, "you're going to get one of us killed out here." Well, I threw and I threw and I threw, and I finally struck out a batter in the 7th inning. And the game was tight, 1-1 I think it was, or 2-1 or something. So I went and I threw my glove down. I said, "I finally struck out," one of those so-and-sos. And the manager said, "Don't be so proud of yourself." He said, "That was a pitcher, and I think he's only got one eye." But it was a lot different when I got into professional ball from around playing the sandlots, you know.
Did you ever feel sorry that maybe you didn't continue as a pitcher, or were you just as happy to go in the outfield?
No, I wanted to play every game.
Yeah, great.
I wanted to be in there. I ate baseball. I slept it. I woke up with it.
Then you came up to Washington.
That's right. Clark Griffith came down and looked at me with Washington, the owner of the Washington Ball Club. He said, "Kid," he said, "I'm going to take you up with me." I thought, well, my, isn't this something? Oh, I couldn't wait till I got up there. And I remember them kidding me a lot when I left down there. They said, "Well, when you get up to the big leagues, why, they'll strike you out just as fast as you come up." And of course the manager told me he said, boy, he said, you're going to the big leagues and you're going there to stay. So Faber at that time was outstanding pitcher. And he was pitching this day. It was about the third game that I had played in the big leagues. And I hit a home run off of him. So when we got in the clubhouse, I didn't know who was pitching. Didn't make any difference to me. So I said to two or three of the boys in there, I said, who was that pitcher? And, oh, boy, did they rave. They said, can you imagine? Anybody don't know who was pitching? The best pitcher in the league. I didn't care who he was. It didn't make any difference. One pitcher to me was just like another, as I say. Oh, I was a big, dumb kid when I went up, you know. I was raised on a farm and no city life at all, you know, and that was a great thrill to get that home run off of Faber after I found it out.
Yeah.
And those guys, they were so mad at me because they couldn't get a hard foul off of him, you know.
Have you always been called Goose?
Well, that nickname comes natural.
A wonderful name.
Well,
Oh, it just sounds
a
great.
little Goslin is a goose.
Yeah,
Is
sure.
that right? That's how it comes
Sure.
about.
Sure.
Yeah.
Before you got in baseball, were you a fan of any club, like when you were about 18 years old?
I had no pick at all, any of the clubs. In fact, I was pulling for me, Mr. Geese, to get up there.
Do you remember the first big league ball game you saw?
Not very vividly.
Remember the first one you played in?
Oh, I bet you do.
Yes, I remember that. I remember that the Detroit Tigers came to town in Washington, the first game I played in. They put me in right field, and Cobb got on first base.
Were you scared? Were you frightened?
No, I wasn't frightened of anything. No.
Ooh.
I didn't have any conscience, I guess, to be frightened or something. I just loved it. I didn't know there was anybody in the grandstand or not. I'd play for nothing if they'd have let me play. But Ty Cobb got on first base, and Bobby Veach, you remember reading about him, he was quite a ball player. So he hit a ball over my up against the wall, and I caught it right off the wall, and Ty Cobb started home. Well, I had quite an arm. I could throw pretty good. You're supposed to relay the ball. See, infielder runs out and you throw it to him, and then he throws it home to the catcher. Instead, I threw the ball all the way in, and it caught Ty Cobb. Just happened to be a lucky throw, you know what I mean? Happened to hit the spot. And did he call me everything? How dumb I was. I'd be up there about 1 week, and you'd be back in the minors where you belong. He was so mad at me. I'll never forget that. That was the first game I played in.
How old were you then?
20.
Did your mother and father ever see you play?
Oh, yes. World Series. I was in 5 World Series.
Yes. Washington never had a World Series without you, right?
That's right.
They would have got you
24, 25, and
33.
33, you know that.
Yeah,
And you made a great single to win a World Series, right?
that's right.
That was in 35,
35.
yes.
I was
That
going
was
to say
a
25.
lucky hit. That was one of those lucky jobs.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't have very many lucky hits now.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're lucky to have the opportunity to come to bat at that time to drive that run in. I was up 4 times without a hit. And I said to the umpire, I said, if they pitch that ball over this place, you can go take that uniform off. And sure enough,
what he did.
first ball in there, I'm lucky enough it happened to hit it right between them.
You were in the 1924 World Series when you beat the Giants on those
That's right.
tricky balls that flew over Freddie Lindstrom's head.
Yeah, that was the final run. I mean, it won the game. It was a fluky bounce. It took over Freddie Lindstrom's head. That's right.
And right before that, didn't Hank Gowdy step on his mask?
That's right. Muddy Rule didn't have a hit in the whole World Series, and he was at bat and he popped this ball up, and Gowdy threw off his mask. Where do you come up with all these things? Did you read that way back?
Sure.
And he threw off his mask, and
That's a famous
and he
play.
ran to catch the ball, you know, and he's looking up at the ball, and every place he kicked the mask, he kicked it right in front of him. Every time, and he stumbled over it about 4 times.
Oh, that must have been something to see.
And he missed the foul pop. I remember Clark Griffith said the mast bit Gowdy. He said the mast bit him. He said that was a good bite.
Yeah, it must have looked that way.
And then Muddy Rule got hit that won the game and the World Series.
Sure, that's a famous inning.
Yeah.
Something like a 10th, 11th, or 12th inning of a final game of a World Series where a ball bounces over a third baseman's head because it hits a pebble, and another play the catcher steps on his mask. And you were only 24 at the time.
I was born in 1900.
Yeah.
When this calendar turns over, why, that puts another year on me.
Yeah. You played with Walter Johnson, didn't you?
Yes.
That must have been quite a thrill for a kid from New Jersey to wind up playing.
Well, I was certainly, that was my biggest thrill, to go to Washington when Walter Johnson was there.
He was in those 2 World Series you were in, wasn't he?
Yes. Yeah. He pitched the final game, which Pittsburgh beat us in the World Series in the rain.
Would they have played that game today if the weather like it was?
I don't think so. See, we laid over 3 days. It rained for 3 days in Pittsburgh, yes.
And the series, as I remember it vaguely, was 3-3, and that was the 7th game, right?
That's right.
And they played in weather that was...
Oh, yeah. And we really should have never lost a game because the umpire couldn't see the ball, and the ball fell at least 1.5 feet foul. It was about the 8th inning, and Max Carey hit the ball, and it came down foul. Well, 2 runs scored on it, and I know it was foul because I ran over for it and it was right against the bleachers. The ball hit in the mud and stopped. We had them 3-1, then they come back and won the next 3 games on us.
You can smile about it now, though, can't you?
Oh, yeah,
it's a long time
all
ago.
Water over the dam now.
Yeah. Can you still smile about the day you hit into 4 double plays?
You remember that, too, huh?
Oh, what was that? Tell about that.
I don't want him to tell about that.
I got 2 records. One of them is tied and the other one has never been beat. One is that I did hit in 4 consecutive double plays. I mowed those guys off of bases just like shooting blackbirds off of a brush.
I guess with a 316 overall
And
average,
I hit every ball good and never got a base hit and hit into 4 consecutive double plays.
That must have been a day you wouldn't want to remember, though.
Oh, I've been kidded so much about that, I enjoy it. But what makes me so mad, there was a boy, the name of Krivich, played for Chicago. He tied me. Yeah, I didn't like that. I wanted to beat a champ.
Great.
What's the other record?
6 straight hits in the World Series.
Oh, 6 straight hits.
In the World Series, yeah, that's never
I
been
didn't
tied.
know
There's
that.
been 5 straights, never 6.
I knew you had a lot of World Series home runs, but I didn't know you had 6 straight hits.
7, I think.
7 home runs, yeah. When you first got to be a famous ball player, really famous, what did it feel like? Here you were, a kid off the farm in New Jersey, and did you tend to get a swelled head?
I didn't even pay any attention to it. I just went out and played the game.
How do you avoid getting a swelled head?
It must be hard when everybody's talking about
I was never that type. I had more fun playing with the fellows when we used to wrestle around one thing and another. No, I never even realized it. I didn't care. It was a game to me. I ate it. I loved it until I got older and the bones got a little frickle, I guess, or something, or stiff, and then it was different.
But now, for instance, we were over at Yankee Stadium the other day, and the ball players are coming into the ballpark. And there's hundreds of people, rushing toward them, and the police are keeping the people back. To me, it seems awful hard that a fella in that circumstance, 24 years old, wouldn't start thinking that, he was really something, and start thinking everybody else wasn't much at all.
No, I never got that way, and I can say that about Babe Ruth. He was one of the greatest. I can say that some of them got swell heads, and one of them was Al Simmons. I thought he was the biggest swell head there ever was in baseball. And he was a great ball player, but he just thought, I am Al Simmons, and that's it. And Babe Ruth was one of the finest. I saw him stand an autograph for youngsters for hours out of the park. I knew Babe very well. He and I used to sort of nightclub it a little bit when he'd come to Washington. He used to steal my bats, and I used to steal his. That's right, we'd get a dozen at a time, and have them in our lockers. he go in my locker, and I go in his. And one day I got a hold of one of his bats, and I know it was his favorite bat. And I thought, well, I'm just going to get this because he had taken about 3 off of me that one day because I had all brand new bats sitting in there. So I got his bat, his favorite, and he come in hunting for it, and I had hit it in our clubhouse in Washington. Well, you know what he had? He had 26 little notches in that bat where he had hit 26 home runs with that bat.
My.
So I knew that, and I knew he'd want that bat.
Yeah.
So he come in raving. Well, anyway, I gave it on him.
It must have been quite a thrill for a youngster from New Jersey to be playing opposite Babe Ruth all of a sudden one day, too, huh?
Yeah, I didn't like Babe Ruth when he come to bat. He used to hit the ball so high, you'd have to wait 5 minutes for it to come down, and the time it'd come down, you'd be dizzy looking for it. Well, he made 3 bases a lot of times without hitting the ball out of the infield. Pop it up, and everybody go over after it, and when it come down, he'd be still keep on running.
Fantastic.
Yeah, you know, it's twisting coming down, and it curved. He did that a couple times in his career. He was my idol. And I copied everything that he did at the plate. Babe, he was a fun-loving fellow wherever he was. He used to draw people in the park. I know when New York used to come to Washington, the day before we'd have 3,000 and maybe 5,000. The Yankees come in there with Babe Ruth, we'd have 20,000. So he was well worth his salary. If he got 100 or more a year, why, he deserved it. And he was quite a showman out on that ball field. You never saw him, I don't think.
No, but I sure have
He was a
heard.
picture hitting a ball. It just looked like it was so easy. He hit the ball, looked like it was a big pop-up, and the ball would come down over in the next street or something. He could hit a ball. Well, I remember one day we played the Yankees on 4th of July. They had a lot of power, and they could hit that ball. That's when they had Ruth, Gehrig, Lazari, Musso. They beat us about 22-2. So Sam Rice and I had our lockers was right alongside of one another. Sam Rice said, well, he said, we had to go change our uniform. It was so when it was hot. Sam said, well, he said, I don't think we'll have such a tough time this second game. He said, I think them guys have swung themselves out. So we went out and they started again. Well, Sam and I had run back in that left field in the Yankee Stadium. It's a long ways. Every time we looked up, somebody was hitting the ball over our head or in between us. So Sam said, he said, listen, the next one comes, he said, as a general rule, 2 of you go back, you know, to back one another up and whatnot. So Sam said, listen, he said, the next ball's hit out here, either you take it or I take it. We both are not going this time. So they kept bombarding again, and Sam would say, that one's yours. I'd say, there you go, Sam, that one's yours. So Sam, Miller Huggins was managing, and Sam said, come on with me, so let's go by the Yankee dugout and give them a blast. Well, they had about 15 runs again in the second game, see. So Sam said, tell them guys to hit the ball the other way. You've got me wore out. That's true. Can you imagine that? They wore us out. After that game was over, I was done.
You think the ball players back in the 20s were as good or better than the ball players today, or about the same?
I would be inclined to think, as a general rule, the ball players today are much better. Back in the 20s, I'd say yes, you had great ball players. You can name about 15 outstanding stars. And then they just had fellas in there that just fit in to take the position. But there was some great stars. Cobb, I played against him, all of those old-timers.
They sure don't hit for averages today.
No, not like they used to. Why, when I broke in the league, Detroit had 5 outfielders hitting over 380.
For a number of years there, you were over 350 many, many times, weren't you? You don't see
No,
that.
I run around 350 there for quite a few years.
Oh, 379 one year.
Did you try to hit for average, or did you try to hit for home runs?
I just swung at the ball, let her go where she might. I can tell you one thing. That hit that I got in the World Series wasn't as big as the one that I got to win that batting championship. That was 1928. I was out in front of everybody else in the league about 20 to 30 points all year, my batting average. And Heine Manouche kept gaining on me. And we played our last game in St. Louis. And Heine Manouche is playing for St. Louis. And do you know that it came to my last time at bat? If I make an out, I lose that. He was 79, I was 79 and a fraction or something, past it. And if I make an out my last time at bat, I lose it, being batting champion of the league. And I had that information before I went to bat. Our sporting writer sent it down to me. He said, if you go to bat and you make an out, Heine Manouche is going to win the batting championship, and we don't want you to do it, and don't go to bat. So I wasn't going to go, and a couple of ball players on the club said, Bucky Harris said, it's up to you if you want to go. He was managing. I said, well, I would like to lead the league once in my life. And he said, well, don't go to bat. And the 3 or 4 of the ball players said, they'll call you yellow if you don't go. So that was enough. I couldn't take that. So I went up to bat, and doggone, if that pitcher didn't get 2 strikes on me before I could get my bat off my shoulder. I took them because I didn't think they were good. I was waiting for a good ball. You know what I mean? Trying to get it. And that umpire called 2 strikes on me before I had a ball. And there I was in the hole. I turned around, I put dirt on my bat, and I thought, what am I going to do now? I said, why, those balls wasn't even close. He said, there is no close ones. It's either this or that. That's right. So I kept thinking, I thought, well, I went and I called the umpire everything. I thought, get him to throw me out of the game.
Oh, great. Terrific.
This is right. I stepped on his toes, I pushed him.
Oh, that's
I did everything. I said, you ain't got enough stuff in you to throw me out of the game. You're afraid to throw me out. I said, I dare you to throw me out. You dirty, dirty, dirty. And he wouldn't. He said, you get up there and hit. He said, and you better be swinging. He said, if I wanted to throw you out, he said, if I could throw you, I'd throw you clean over to Oshkosh.
That's great.
And, gee, I got a lucky hit. Save me.
How'd you feel the first time you got traded?
Well, that was a funny thing. We were playing in Chicago, and we go to St. Louis. And Sam Rice was just entered the Hall of Fame. He was my roommate. So we get in St. Louis about 8 o'clock in the morning, have breakfast. They have a zoo where we stopped in this hotel not too far away. So I thought I'd go over to the zoo. So I was over there, they had bears over there, and I used to give them peanuts and things like that, and the monkeys. And so I don't know nothing about this. So I come back to...
What a picture, huh?
So I come back to the hotel, and Sam is sitting out waiting for me. He said, you're in the wrong hotel. And I didn't get it. He said, I tell you, you're in the wrong hotel. I said, what do you mean I'm in the wrong hotel? He said, well, you'll find out. I smell the mice somehow. And he said, well, do you know that they traded you to St. Louis Browns? I said, no. Did they really? Well, it broke my heart, but I got along all right. Well, I mean, I went out and played against my own team. And I'll never forget Freddie Marbury, one of the greatest relief pitchers, pitched for Washington. And he was pitching that day. So Freddie come out, and he said, oh, pal, he said, you and I have always been buddies, he said, but when that ball game starts, it's different now. I don't know, I think I got about 3 hits off of him. But he was right down my alley because he was a fastball pitcher, and I loved that fastball. Well, I was naturally a fastball hitter. They used to play me like they played Williams, 3 of them on the right side of the infield. And still I'd hit that ball right through them a lot of times. When they'd throw me up slow stuff and curves, I wasn't so good on that. I didn't like it either because you had to furnish your own power. You couldn't hit that ball over the fence. But when they tossed her in there fast, then you got a hold of it. She's gone. I think Ted Lyons and Irvin Shocker and Herb Pinnock, I don't think they've ever thrown me a ball over the plate yet. They were had good control. They could throw the ball through an eye of a needle if they wanted to. And they just keep it on the corners, on the corners, on the corners all the time.
Those were the days before they wore helmets, wasn't it?
Yeah, we didn't have no helmets then.
Some of those balls came awful fast in there.
Oh, yeah.
What about fear of that ball coming in there? I mean, it seems awful hard.
Well, in my younger days, I didn't realize that they were throwing at me. And this same fellow we talked about, I mentioned a while ago, Sam Rice, we was having dinner, and I said, Sam, I said, how is it that they're never so wild when they're pitching to you? I said, how is it? And I go up to the plate, and they right at my head. I said, well, you're so dumb. He said, they've been throwing at you for 2 years, and you don't know it. That's true. But I felt like after they threw at me so much, they couldn't hit me with a handful of shot in the head. They hit me in every other place but in the head.
I should imagine for an athlete that would always be something in the back of his mind that, you know, a broken wrist, a broken leg can mean the end of a whole career, and you never know when it might happen. But if you play like you expected, you can't play well.
No, you just got to play hard. I played hard. I gave it everything I had when I played, and I didn't fear nothing. And as I say, I was a big dumb kid and didn't care for anything. Fight a bull without a sword.
What about when you got older?
Different. Different then.
Did you have eyes that were good enough so that you could tell a curveball from a fastball as it was coming towards you in that fraction of a second?
Oh my, I used to think I could see the ball hit the bat.
You could actually see the ball and hit the bat.
I believed it in my own mind that I saw that ball hit that bat. That is really true.
You really watched that ball to the last.
Right on up to my bat.
Funny thing, there still isn't a single umpire that wears eyeglasses. A lot of ball players do, but no umpires wear eyeglasses.
Well, a lot of people have told me to get eyeglasses. I can remember one time there was a fellow that had quite a few drinks, and he was calling the umpire blind, and the umpire was so mad at him, he kept giving him the business all the time. And the umpire said, I'd like to get out of there, and he said, and punch that guy right in the mouth. So he finally, I was on first base, and he said, he hollered over, he said, shut up, you drunk. The drunk said, well, tomorrow I'll be sober and you'll still be blind. I'll never forget that. That was funny.
What a great answer.
But they traded you back to Washington in time to make the 1933 World Series, didn't they?
Yeah, they traded for me. I forget who they gave for me. I went back with them, and they got Earl Whitehill from Detroit. And I figured with Earl Whitehill and myself and the Washington Ball Club, we were cinched to win the pennant. So sure enough, we did. And then the next year, it was a Depression year. And Clark Griffith called me on the phone and said, come down, I want to talk to you. He said, I know that you're worth more money than I can pay you. And he said, we won the pennant this year, and we didn't make any money. Well, it was a very bad Depression year. Remember, Roosevelt closed the banks in 1933.
Yeah.
And he said, if you can make a trade for yourself or make connections, he said, I'll gladly trade you. So Mickey Cochran at that time came down to my home. He came down there, and we used to go gunning together. And he said, I got a chance to manage that Detroit Ball Club. He said, do you think I can get you from Washington? That was right down my alley. I said, yes. From Washington. I said, but if you get that job, I said, Detroit was the toughest ball club we had to beat last year to win that pennant. I said, they got a young ball club and they're coming. I said, if you get there and I come along with you, we'll win that pennant. He said, boy, I'm going to talk to Connie Mack. Connie Mack let him go and sold him to Detroit. And 2 days later, I got a telegram from Mickey. He said, you belong to Detroit.
Oh, great.
So that was really breaking. Then I walked right into 2 more pennants. And Clark Griffith was good about it. Griffith was a father to his players. He wasn't a boss. He tried to help them. Everyone that played for him, they always thought a lot of him.
Clark Griffith had a reputation for being tight-fisted.
No, he wasn't.
He wasn't.
No, sir. He was just as good or better than any of them. He was all right. He treated me good, I know that, and He was more than a father to me, that man was. That's if I'd stay out late at night, he would know it. How he knew it, I don't know yet. And he'd call me on the carpet, and he'd certainly preach to me. And he used to say, "You promised me you won't do it again."
Were you kept pretty strict?
Oh, yeah, they had 11 o'clock curfews, but, oh, well, when you're young, you want to run around, go to dances or something, nightclubs or something like that. You'd sneak out and go up the far elevator or something like that. My last year in baseball, 1938, Clark Griffith called me. I was released in 37 from Detroit, and he said, "Well, you started with me. You may as well finish up with me."
So you went back for one more year.
I went back for one more year, and I didn't complete the whole season as playing. I didn't even complete my last time at bat.
Well,
Well, I hurt my back, and Lefty Gomez was pitching, and he was pretty fast, so I swung on the ball and hurt my back, and so they sent a pinch hitter up for me, and that was the last time I ever went to bat. I never finished the last time at bat.
That was probably the first time they ever sent a pinch hitter up for you, too, huh?
I think it was. It was the only time in my career. I was glad. I was thrilled. I was getting tired of it then. It was getting work then, and I lived out of a grip for 20 years. Naturally, when you're young like this ball here, you feel like running and everything else. But after you've had it that long, you've had enough. So I got tired and didn't want to play no more. Oh, those trains, I didn't like them very much because, oh my, this train, taxi cab, and hotel, and taxi cab, and train. Sonny boy, what are you going to be?
I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
Do you play baseball?
Yeah,
What position?
first base.
First base?
Yeah.
How do you hit? Right-handed, left-handed?
Right-handed.
Right-handed? Can you hit? Can you hit the ball?
Yeah, pretty good.
That's all he likes
Good
to do.
for you. You chase that game, you'll love it because you meet the finest people, and you have the finest accommodations, hotels, travel, and everything.
It's a good life, huh?
Delicious.